Have you ever looked in the mirror and seen a familiar face, but a soul that feels like a stranger? Everything you've worked so hard to build, the family, the career, the relationships, somehow doesn't feel like it belongs to you anymore. It's not because you're weak. It's not because you're broken. It might just mean you're waking up. This video won't fix you, but it will help you see where are you truly on this path and how to take your next step, steady and aligned. I want to tell you a story that might resemble yours more than you think. HM is a 45-year-old woman. She has what most would call a complete life. A decent husband, 2 well-behaved kids, a corporate job at a major financial firm, stable enough not to worry about money, but draining enough to leave her exhausted every day. Every morning, like clockwork, at 6 o'clock a.m., she wakes up, brews coffee, and makes breakfast. Calls her kids to get up, brushes her teeth, gets dressed, and drives them to school. Then she sits in traffic for another 40 minutes, along with the hum of the engine, before stepping into the office. She still chats with co-workers, still turns in reports on time, still smiles when she walks in the door at night. Everything seems fine, doesn't it? Until one morning. The sky was still blue, the coffee still smelled good, the car still started, and the radio played the same old tune she used to love. But when she glanced into the rearview mirror, she suddenly realized she didn't want to go there anymore. It wasn't about a terrible boss. It wasn't the pressure. It wasn't any one thing. It was something quieter, deeper. Her life simply didn't feel like hers anymore. Everything was still happening. The routines, the roles, the expectations. But it felt like watching a play she no longer believed in. Everyone else still played their parts. But she couldn't tell what role she was in. Or worse, if she was even part of the play at all. She still went to work that day, still answered emails, still brought home dinner for the kids. But that night, when the whole house was asleep, she sat alone in the kitchen. The room was dark, lit only by the hallway light spilling through the door. And she broke down, not because she was sad, but because she no longer knew who she was. There was nothing left to cling to, no label, no title, no words to define her. From that moment on, things shifted. Quietly, no one around her truly noticed. She started avoiding friends. Weekend hangouts became a burden. Whenever her husband mentioned vacation plans or the kids' futures, she stayed silent. Not because she didn't love them, but because she didn't know what version of herself that love was supposed to come from. It was as if old dreams, old thoughts, old hopes had all left along with a part of her she could no longer access. One morning, standing in the bathroom, she looked into the mirror, same familiar face, same lines, same tired eyes, but something felt off. It was like her soul was behind the mirror, watching. Not inside her, not present, just observing, quietly, from a distance, as if the woman in the mirror. She was no longer the person she used to be. Once, her daughter, 16 years old, asked, "Mom, are you okay?" A simple question, genuine, but she couldn't answer. Not because she didn't want to, but because there were no words for what was unraveling inside. She smiled, stroked her daughter's hair, and said, "Mom's just a little tired." But the truth was, she wasn't tired. She was empty. I'm sharing this story not to make you sad, but because I know you might be feeling this too. You don't need to go through a major loss. You don't have to lose someone, or survive an accident, or get fired. And yet, you can still find yourself falling into a strange emptiness, where everything that once defined you slowly begins to lose meaning. In spiritual terms, some call it the dark night of the soul. In modern psychology, it's sometimes labeled a midlife identity shift. But naming it doesn't matter. What matters is this: you're not crazy. You're not broken. You're waking up, and awakening isn't always light. Sometimes it begins with all the lights going out. The truth is, when your soul begins to mature, It will start stripping away everything that no longer aligns with who you're becoming. Old friendships, jobs that no longer serve your spirit, even roles you've played for years within your family. Suddenly, they all feel heavy, misplaced, like costumes that no longer fit, and you may feel like you're losing your life, but in truth, you're being handed a chance to be reborn, just like HM, and maybe, just like you. In the next part, I'll help you understand why this is happening, not with vague comfort, but with real clarity about your energy, your mind, and the deeper laws governing your soul's path. Stay with me when someone starts feeling lost, disconnected from the life they once called familiar. The first thing they often do is doubt themselves. Am I depressed? Is there something wrong with me? Do I need therapy? But if you're going through this exact state, where your work feels pointless, your relationships lose their meaning, and even you don't recognize who you've become, then maybe what you're experiencing isn't a disorder. It might be a deep inner shift, a process where your soul begins to dismantle the old structures, beliefs, roles, identities you once wore, to prepare for a new way of living, more honest, more free. And like any true transformation, this process usually begins in chaos. Imagine yourself as an energy system. You've created your life, your job, your relationships, the place you live, based on the frequency you've been emitting for years. Each time you believed, I have to please others to be loved. You formed energy connections from that belief. Every time you stayed silent instead of speaking your truth, you added a layer of protection around your heart. Over the years, you've ended up living inside a reality built from countless layers of outdated beliefs, most of which no longer reflect who you are. Then one day, something inside begins to stir. You start to question. You feel exhausted, not just from your work, but from how you're living. No one's hurting you, no one's holding you back, yet you still feel trapped. That's when a deeper part of you starts pulling its energy away from the old system, the ways you used to live, think, and react. And what do you feel? This is disconnection. Disconnection from loved ones. Disconnection from your emotions. Disconnection from yourself. This is the in-between space, like a no man's land between two realities. You no longer belong to the old. But the news hasn't shown itself yet. In spiritual teachings, this is considered a sacred phase. It's not an ending, it's a sacred pause, a moment where your system begins erasing the old software so you can write your code anew. But because this stage is invisible, silent, and no one teaches you about it, you think something's wrong with you. In truth, this is a natural part of awakening. Just as a snake must shed its skin, a tree must drop its leaves, a human being must fall into darkness to find the light within. From a psychological lens, this mirrors what modern science calls a midlife identity transition. According to research by the American Psychological Association, about 40–50% of adults aged 38 to 55 will experience a phase of questioning their identity, not because of trauma, but because of internal evolution. A 2016 Harvard study showed that individuals, those who move through a midlife identity crisis with the right support, often become more fulfilled, more deeply connected, and more creative in the second half of life. Which means you're not spiraling downward, you're being called inward. The problem is, you weren't given a map. We're taught how to make money, how to raise a family, how to succeed, but no one teaches us how to rebirth ourselves. That's why it feels unclear. That's why you feel alone. That's why you feel lost. And that's okay. Because of that confusion. It is fertile ground for something new. Just like a field must be turned over before it can be planted, your soul must break through its old structures to reveal what's most authentic beneath. And right now, even if nothing feels clear, you've already begun. When you feel suffocated by the very life you once took pride in, when you feel like a stranger in the home you built with your own hands, when the things that once made you happy no longer spark joy, then maybe this isn't a sign you've lost your way. It might be a sign that your soul has outgrown its old skin, and it's time to shed it. In the next part, I'll share with you the subtle yet powerful signs that you're truly going through a spiritual awakening, not so you can label everything, but so you can recognize yourself clearly and gently. You deserve to understand who you are and to live truthfully, starting right now. Not everyone knows they're going through a spiritual awakening, because when you're standing in the eye of the storm, it's hard to notice the wind has changed direction, and when the world around you still thinks you're fine, it becomes even harder to name the storm inside. But if you pay close attention, there are signs, subtle yet unmistakable, that you're in the middle of a profound inner shift. I call them silent bells. The first bell, it is a deep loss of interest in things that once brought you joy. You used to enjoy your work, or at least you found some meaning in it. But lately, every morning feels like a battle just to get out of bed. Nothing is technically wrong, but everything feels heavy. You simply don't want to be there anymore. That's the first sign. Not laziness, not a lack of drive, but your inner compass is changing direction. The second bell, you feel emotionally distant from loved ones, even if you still love them. You no longer find comfort in small talk, weekend gatherings, or everyday interactions. And the scariest part, it's the sense that you're acting through your life, as if you're playing the role of good mother, supportive partner, dutiful child. But inside, you feel hollow. Don't blame yourself. This isn't about disconnecting from others. It's a signal that you're being called to reconnect with yourself. The third bell, your dreams begin to shift in strange ways. Many people in the awakening experience vivid, symbolic, or recurring dreams. You might dream of being lost, falling from heights, or packing bags to leave a familiar place. Dreams aren't random. They're the language of the subconscious, the place where your soul speaks through images. If you begin having dreams that repeat, or you wake up with emotions that feel deep but unexplainable, write them down. These nightly memories often carry sacred messages. The fourth bell, your perception of time begins to distort. You may feel like time is moving unusually fast or dragging unbearably slow. Days pass like fog, without clarity or rhythm. You forget appointments, you lose track of schedules. You stop caring about being on time or sticking to plans, not because you're careless, but because your mind is detaching from the linear pace of your old life. This isn't just spiritual theory. It's also backed by neuroscience. When the brain enters a phase of deep cognitive restructuring, our perception of time and space can change. The fifth bell, you become highly sensitive to the energy around you. Crowds drain you. Loud noises, bright lights, shallow conversations, all make you want to pull away. You start seeking solitude, not out of loneliness, but because you need space to process the emotional waves rising inside. This sensitivity isn't a weakness. It's a new radar being activated, a guidance system that helps you navigate life with more clarity and precision. If you're willing to listen, and the final bell, perhaps the loudest of them all, a powerful longing to live authentically. You can no longer pretend. You can't fake small talk. You can't tolerate lies. Even in someone's tone of voice or flicker of expression, you feel a burning urge to strip away all masks and live simply, honestly, and with raw truth. This isn't rebellion. This is a return to yourself. When these signs show up, even if not all at once, you may feel like you're in free fall. But the truth is, you're not falling. You're being released. from what no longer fits. Like a ship leaving its old harbor, you can no longer see the new shore. But you know, without a doubt, you cannot go back. And that's why this video exists. Not to draw the map to your next destination, but to walk beside you while you cross this ocean. In the next part, I'll share how to not only survive this transformation, but to walk through it with clarity, presence, and a sense of direction, because you are not alone, and this journey is about guiding you back to the most beautiful version of who you truly are. If you feel like you're caught between two worlds, no longer belonging to the old but not yet stepping into the new, then what you need most, it is not a map. What you need is someone willing to sit with you in that in-between space, patiently, without fixing, without rushing. Today, let me be that companion, because I know what that loss feels like, that feeling of being taken apart, piece by piece. Yet, having no idea who's doing it or why, that sense of having to start over, without the energy to even begin, and more than anything, that aching feeling that no one truly understands what you're going through. So what can you do when you're in the rupture? First, don't rush to find answers. I know, we're wired to ask, why am I feeling this way? How do I fix it? What's wrong with me? But sometimes the answers don't come right away, not because they don't exist, but because your soul isn't ready to receive them with the mind. In this phase, trying to analyze and solve everything, it can make you feel even more exhausted. What you need, it is to allow yourself to simply experience it, even if it's messy, even if there's no clear exit. Like a seed buried deep in the earth, it doesn't need to know when it will sprout. It only needs to trust that something is happening in the quiet. Second, treat your body as a sacred shelter. When the mind is scattered and the emotions are flooding, the body is your only safe place to stay. Even if you don't know who you are, even if you're unsure what's coming, you're still breathing. So breathe deeply, eat slowly, walk mindfully. Your body doesn't need a reason to be loved. It only needs you to return to it. Take walks in nature. Take warm baths. Lie under a tree. Sleep enough. These simple acts. Are you how you stay connected to life, even when your inner world feels like it's falling apart? To be reborn. Third, reduce external noise. When you're in the rupture, your system is highly sensitive. Too much information, too many opinions, too many voices can be overwhelming. Not because they're wrong, but because your mind is like a radio dial trying to tune in, and too many signals cause static. Turn off social media, turn down the news, limit shallow conversations. Permit yourself to filter your connections. Even say no to loved ones. If what you need is solitude, this isn't selfish. It's protecting the space where your rebirth is taking shape. Fourth, start journaling. Not to be eloquent, but to be real. Each day, take 5 to 10 minutes and write what you're feeling. Don't try to make sense of it. Don't worry if it sounds ugly. Write the fear, write the anger, write the emptiness. Write without judgment. You'll start to notice a truer voice emerging through the words. And sometimes, what you need is not a solution, but your honest attention. Fifth, choose one small act each day to connect with the sacred. Whether you call it the universe, God, the source, or simply something greater, tapping into what's beyond logic can ease the loneliness of this passage. Light a candle, meditate, pray, or simply look up at the night sky and whisper, I don't know where I'm going, but please, walk with me. Do this daily, sincerely, and you'll begin to feel a quiet current of grace surrounding you. Not loud, not flashy, but just enough to remind you you're being guided. And finally, the most important thing, don't resist the change. If you're falling, let yourself fall. If you're losing all the old definitions of self, let them unravel. You don't need to hold on, to what used to define you. Because the person you're becoming needs space to emerge. Allow yourself to not know. Allow yourself to be uncertain. Allow yourself to feel unready. That's not weakness. That's fertile soil, where your true self can grow. You don't have to do all of this. Just pick one thing. Start there. One small step at a time, because true transformation rarely arrives in dramatic breakthroughs. It comes quietly, in humble, honest steps. And I promise you, if you keep going, even slowly, even shakily, one day you'll look back and realize this rupture. It was the beginning of the life you were born to live. You've made it through the rupture. There were moments you thought you wouldn't survive it, but you're still here, still breathing, still listening, still seeking to understand yourself. And that, it is the very first sign that new energy is beginning to open within you. There are no fireworks, no applause, just a quiet morning. When you wake up and realize your heart doesn't feel as heavy as it used to. Just an afternoon. When you hear the birds sing, and for the first time in months, you smile. For no reason. New energy doesn't arrive in a rush. It comes like sunlight slipping through a door. After a long, silent night, soft, but enough for you to know, dawn is here. So what will you begin to notice as you step into this new energy? First, you'll start to feel reconnected to yourself. Not the kind of connection that says, I know exactly who I am and what I want. No, it's gentler than that. It's the kind of connection where you can sit alone and not feel empty. Where do you hear your heart whisper, let it go, and you simply nod? No resistance, no forcing. You begin to trust your intuition more. You know when to say no, without guilt. You feel people's energy more clearly, who uplifts you and who drains you, and slowly, you become the most reliable guide for your path. Second, you begin to attract new relationships, lighter, more aligned. Some old connections drift away, some bonds break, not out of conflict, but simply because the frequencies no longer match. Then, quietly, new people begin to enter your life, not in grand, dramatic ways, but as if they were always there, just waiting for you to unlock them. You'll have deeper conversations. Without trying, you'll feel seen. Not for your achievements, but for your presence. And the best part, you no longer have to perform. You can just be you. Imperfect, unpolished, real, and they'll stay. Third, you'll begin to see more clearly what truly matters to you. You might still be in the same job, in the same home, but how you live is different. You're no longer swept up by expectations, no longer chasing approval. You now have an inner compass that quietly points you toward what deserves your energy and what doesn't. You may start caring more about things you once ignored: nature, stillness, caring for your body, meaningful time with your family, and you'll realize those quiet joys nourish your soul far more than any spotlight ever could. Fourth, you'll feel a desire to contribute, not out of duty, but out of love. Not loud love, not hurried love, but the kind of love that simply wants to plant something beautiful in the world. Just because you can. You may start writing, drawing, guiding others, sharing your story, not because you're a guru, but because you've touched something true within yourself. And you want others to feel that truth within them too. This is when many people discover their soul calling, not to change the world, but to live their life. And in a way that finally feels right. Fifth, and perhaps most beautiful of all, you'll no longer fear change like you once did, because you've already crumbled, already lost direction, already questioned your very identity, and you survived. And from that place, a deeper truth takes root. Everything may fall away, every role may dissolve, but your true self, It is never lost. And once you know that, you become free, no longer afraid of losing a job. No longer afraid of being misunderstood. No longer afraid of aging or becoming irrelevant. No longer needing to prove anything. You just live, day by day, truer, deeper, more present. And that, it is the greatest reward of all. Not some glorious, flashy awakening like the books describe, but a soft return to wholeness, like a tree coming back to the earth, like water returning to its source, like you returning to you. In the final part, I won't give you anything lofty, just a closing message, something you can carry forward as you take this journey deeper, wider, and more honestly. Because even if I'm not beside you, you'll never walk alone again. If you're still here, listening to the very end, I want to tell you something from the heart. You are incredibly brave, not because you've done something grand, but because you dared to sit with yourself. In the midst of confusion, chaos, and emptiness, you dared not run. You dared not explain it away. You dared to stay inside the not knowing. And just by doing that, you've already changed. Because the world out there teaches us we must always know what we're doing, to be strong, confident, focused, with a plan, with logic. But who teaches us how to stay when our hearts are full of doubt? Who shows us how to keep living when our old self is gone and our new self has yet to arrive? You taught yourself with your own heart. And I want you to know, you are not alone in this journey. Many others, all around the world, you are walking through similar inner storms. Maybe they've just gone through a big life change, or maybe nothing dramatic happened, but deep inside, they feel something is dissolving. So if you're walking in the dark, please know this. The light is not only waiting at the end of the path, it's already there. In every step you take when you choose to keep going. You don't need to see the entire future. You only need to be honest with how you feel today. You don't have to fix your whole life overnight. You just need to return to yourself a little more each day. Don't rush to label yourself the awakened one, the seeker, the one who's rebirthing. You don't have to be anything. You just have to be you, in your truest, softest version. And from there, life will begin to rearrange itself for you. New doors will open. New people will appear. New opportunities will unfold. Not because you chased them, but because you were finally ready to receive. Now, before we say goodbye, I want to invite you to do something simple. If it feels right in your heart, place your hand gently on your chest. Feel your heartbeat. The beat that never stopped, even when you were lost, even when you were unsure, even when you were hurting. And whisper to yourself, I'm still here. I'm still walking forward. And I trust. Something beautiful is waiting for me. That's all. You don't need to know what that beautiful thing is. You only need to keep trusting, because as long as you hold on to that faith, you still carry the light. If this video touched something inside you, share it with someone who might need it too. Someone who smiles every day, but inside feels like they're barely holding on. Someone who seems fine on the outside, but deep down feels lost. Share it. Not so they'll admire you, but so they won't feel alone. And if you want to continue walking this journey with me through the bright and the shadowy places within, click subscribe, turn on notifications, because each week I'll share another part of this path. This path back to yourself. This rebirth. Not into someone new, but into who you've always been. Beneath all that, you are not. I won't promise to have all the answers, but I do promise to always speak with truth and kindness. Thank you for being here today, and please remember, you don't need to do anything grand. You only need to remember every day Who are you? We'll meet again in the next video, in a quiet afternoon breeze, or inside your own heart, when you need a reminder the most. I believe in you, and I'm waiting for you. In your most beautiful version, that is slowly being born.